All right, guys. So we're recording. So tonight, like I said, we're gonna kind of just go over a little bit on the. We're gonna cover like tax liens and treasury deeds, real quick for housekeeping. Next week, well, I mean tomorrow night, we're gonna do surplus and overbid funds, and we'll talk about the jurisdictions, the states where you could be an agent for people who have, surplus and overbid funds, that are held on by the jurisdictions, by the counties and stuff. Some states, like in Colorado, the money actually goes to the Colorado State Treasurer's office, and they hold the money. Colorado does not let you be an agent. You cannot profit from even from helping people for 2.5 years. Other states you can jump right in. So we'll cover that tomorrow night, and then next Wednesday and Thursday we'll start. Well, on Wednesday nights I'll be doing like from this laptop, where I have everything, the one that I pretty much run everything with. But on Thursday nights, I will be using my the one I got in October. I've been training it up, getting it ready, and I will be actually on. We'll be using the RCIC, the what I'm calling core now. It's don't worry about that name. You guys all have it. It's the prompt assist and everything that everybody's had already. Well, I'm just kind of calling it core for like some marketing reasons. We also have the other four, Operator OS and Capital OS and Campaign and Exchange. Exchange and Capital will be ready this weekend. I'm just trying to, so we don't have that same problem we had on Saturday, man. When I have to go and sit there and try to recreate it because of the links. Just to kind of give anybody who's kind of when I show people like the GPTs, how I've done that in what I've showed you, like how where they're built at and all that. Sometimes there's just some reason it doesn't let you make it like a public, and I don't mean like being the GPT store where it's anybody with Chat GPT can access it, but sometimes like if it's a financial or something, you've got to change it. So they had one of mine had a restriction, so I had to go back and figure it out, delete it, and it was no big deal. But just to have those other four GPTs will be awesome, and they are like with a prompt link. I'm also able to on Sunday. I used up my Bitly links, so on Sunday I can actually generate 5 more. So I want to make sure I have Bitlys rather than, because sometimes the Chat GPTs are too long and they can get broken. So I've been testing them, and I'm just trying to say that our Bitly link has lasted 7 months, whereas some of the new ones are like, I don't know, they're just a little bit fragile. We're talking about the links, so making sure once everybody's in, you got everybody's on board. If something you ever have a problem with accessing it, just let me know on Messenger, and I'll send you the new one. It actually doesn't change anything. You can actually have the GPT can actually break the link or whatever. It's just like if somebody doesn't pay $20 for their Plus account on GPT, if it goes back to free, even it'll suck for the couple whatever it is until you restore it to Plus, but you don't actually lose anything, but it won't let you work on anything you were working on that is Plus, so it's kind of like a setback, but you don't lose anything. That's kind of a good thing. So the other thing is that, like I said, I'll be working starting next Thursday, like you guys. We're going to be doing more workshops, and I know Curtis and you and a few other people like that. Where I'll actually be working with. I want to have people who are like subject matter guides, also being able to weigh in, because we got a lot of people with a lot of experience doing different things, and I want to basically tap into knowledge and expertise. That maybe I don't have. Like tonight, I don't have a tax lien. I basically set it all up, but Curtis, like I said, when we get to it, I'm gonna ask you to like talk about the IRS stuff that we talked about on our one-on-one, things like that, and it's just like with Matt, he's on now. Matt's kind of he knows a lot about like government contracting, and there are some real estate opportunities in contracting for the federal government. So if anybody's interested in that, talk to Matt. He's on right now. I can introduce you guys offline. Matt's been around. He's been with our, the organization for probably 5 years. So we got a lot of good people coming on. So that's kind of what the game plan is. Obviously today I worked on the skip tracing prompt, which I sent to a few people to test, because I like to break it before I put it out to the whole. So if we can break it, then I can fix it. So I sent it to a few people to test it out, so we can tweak it. So I worked on that today, and I worked on wholesaling mode, because there's a lot of stuff going on with wholesaling. Also, like I said, we talked about OpenClaw. I still am learning. I'm learning it, but what I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to spend a little time trying to build something. but I don't know exactly if we're going to directly use it. If I can build something that helps me help you guys, and you guys don't have to build it, or there's no other expense and all that, yeah, I'm all for it. What I really want to do is wait to see what OpenAI does with Peter Steinberger, who's the creator of it, because it's going to do multi-agent, and we definitely want to get into multi-agent. We always want to stay ahead, because what I've also noticed is that I'm literally now into several AI-related groups on Facebook. Like, and I joined that one you sent me, Amanda, that Jonathan Mass group. So there's a few other ones, but I see a lot of people like now, like, oh, I'd like to build a real estate directory or whatever, something that does with real estate. Sometimes, most of the time, it seems to be for agents, like how to help agents find clients and stuff like that. So, but I have to start now, kind of sorting through the people when I have a conversation if they're trying to like duplicate or do, they're trying to, they want to do like what we're doing. If And then I'm trying to keep them like, like if somebody buys it, if somebody gets into RCIC and they want to go and do something, I'm not really going to try to stop them, because I think we're so far ahead that I think it would be hard for anybody to duplicate it. So I'm trying to like be careful there, just to, I think we're just so far ahead of everything, because I see a lot of the AIs out there, prop tech companies, Deal Machine, PropStream, and all them. They're all talking and built. There's one BILT, and they're all like, oh yeah, we do AI and stuff. They're still captive. Like meaning like, when you're an insurance agent, if you work for State Farm, you can't sell for American Family, and vice versa, meaning captive. So they capture the leads, and they actually do call them leads. We try to call them opportunities, like distress opportunities, with the AHJs, the county clerks, and all that. We don't want. They still hold on to them. They filter them and they send them out to their subscribers. So if somebody wants, I don't know, they want more Bill, or Bill pulled us 325 properties last week in Northern California. If they, they're not going to give you all of them raw. You guys get it. We get them at the, you guys know that in the links, in the off ramps to the AHJs, you're getting them like as soon as Repo County or El Paso County or whatever, they publish them, you get them. And the NEDs and the NODs, the notice of election demand and the notice of default, those are in non-judicial states. Judicial states have list pendants. But if they, in those states, you guys get all that information, a lot of information that the prop tech companies and list sellers don't ever give people, because they basically, so a lot of people are like, looked at those NEDs, because I've sent them to people, just like, hey, you get this NED, and they're like, well, I don't know, you get that much information on those, like you're getting them raw. Because that's what the mortgage company, all that documentation that I've shown you guys, and like when I go to Jefferson County or somewhere, and even in your counties, that's what I tell people when you first get on, you choose your market, start, follow along with what I'm showing you, because then you can duplicate it in yours, and you can go and pull up the off ramps and the links and do the downloads the PDF. Sometimes, like I said, you have to copy and paste. So this is more like for Amanda and Matt, since you guys haven't been probably as much as like Curtis has been recently. We want to make sure that people, that you can get all that information. You can get a lot of information. You can go to the tax assessor's office. In most counties, they're the same building, at least in my county. So you can go back there and you can get all the tax and the sales history. You know how many times you can, the history of that property being sold. If it's been sold 8 to 10 times, you get all that. It's just like with my grandparents' house a couple of weeks ago. We sold it in 2004. My grandfather bought it in 1953. Obviously, they didn't have records back then. But in 2004, we sold it. They have the record, and then the permits. So bringing up permits before I start on the tax liens and treasury deeds. Another thing is to look at these properties is go back to the building department or whatever department is in those counties that deals with building permits. Because chances are it's had a building permit, and if it's been recent with the current homeowner that's in foreclosure or any kind of distress, the contractor has to put their information on the permits. So they have to put their email and their phone number. Well, guess what? You just skip trace. You don't have to pay anything for skip tracing. We do have the skip tracing prompt. I know Fred and Eric and Michael and a few other people are going to be testing that, or Willie, and I'll provide it to anybody that wants to also test it, just so we can tweak it. But you can get information that all these skip tracing companies are like, you're paying for 10,000, like with PropWire, you're paying for 10,000 a month for $119. What if you only need to do 100? because like we were talking about last week with Bill, 325 properties, it went down to like 25. Well, he may only have to really skip trace those 25 or even less than that. So 10,000 is really kind of overkill, and they're based on a certain amount of cents per search. So the whole idea is you guys could, most people should be able to go to the permits, local permits, whatever the building department is. They could be, most of the times the building and the zoning departments, unless it's, a small county or something, are generally separate departments. So just keep in mind you can go and you can get the information a lot of times off of that, which is good. So you don't have to really go out and pay for skip tracing. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring up a little bit of tonight, and then we can talk about the other stuff. And like I said, what has every week, if for some reason the screen, I lose the screen, just remind me, and I'll make sure I share a screen, because everybody that's been on it knows that we kind of sometimes I kind of moving around, especially when I start going to the off ramps. And for Matt and Amanda, I'll show you kind of what the off ramps and the on ramps. You want to think of it as an interstate highway. So you got off ramps, just like you're driving down an interstate. You got the off ramp that has the hotels and the convenience stores and the restaurants. You get your on ramp back onto the interstate, go to that next exit. So think about the exits, the distress intelligence lanes. The first lane you're going to go to is always going to be where you get the foreclosure list, where you get the eviction list, where you get probates, the probate codes, which are a little bit slower. When you on-ramp back on, your next exit is going to be the tool store. It's like finding Home Depot, only it's all real estate investing tools. And so what we'll remind people to do is in projects, always use projects over chats. Chats are like exploration, discussion. Set up projects, and you guys will see how many projects I have now compared to like a month and a half ago. So you guys can set up like your different projects, like your tool store. Like if you want to do MRA, market reality assessment, if you want to do use daisy chain detector. If you're getting leads from wholesalers, you want to use daisy chain detector. You can ask it for it. Like again, if you need help with me, then I'll help you. I'll tweak it, and we'll make sure you have daisy chain detector. It's a cool tool. Not everybody's going to need it, but if you're dealing with a lot of wholesalers, people you may not know as well, you're not getting it from the AHJ where you trust it because you're getting the information, then you can use that. Also, ARV, and I did start, it was the AIV thing. I put it yesterday. I put that PDF into the RCIC Facebook groups files tab, and it's got a thing like a checklist, and you can go down. There's two versions. There's one that's just you can read off, and there's another one that's like form fillable. So if you just want to for the first couple of times, if you need to run it, just form fillable. There's probably the more information you put in, the more it can determine your ARV, and then you can pull comps. We showed that obviously you can use market reality assessment on comps. You can go to the property, you can go to like 2 or 3 blocks over if you're in a kind of a squarish area, if it works with geography and how the roads are built and stuff, because sometimes you might have to be like on my grandparents' house. When we broke it down, obviously Broadway to University. I know if you haven't been to Denver, you don't know these streets, but these are kind of major streets. So, west and east is Broadway and University. North and south is Evans and Hamden. Hamden's a major road. You can go all the way down to like Durango and stuff. Southwest almost to where Four Corners is. So we start in that area where you go to the property, or if you can start like. That whole area, what I just described, has like University of Denver, major university, and it also has Porter Hospital, a level 2 trauma center. So there's a lot of medical people. There's a lot of people that are associated with the university. So a lot of affluency kind of at that level. It's not like trophy homes and stuff, but we all know that my grandparents' house was just sold retail wise for 1.26 million. So when you use MRA, that's a tool you can put in your toolbox. Your next lane. Your next off-ramp is going to be lender matching and capital passport. And then your next one after that is going to, of course, be contract to close, transaction coordination. There's some other ones out there that you can create yourself if you want to, the processes of it. So I'll kind of go through real quick tonight. The reason is tax liens are really good in treasury deeds. Tax liens yield strategy. It's optional ownership. Treasury deeds acquisition strategy of forced equity. So we talk about like small counties. So I looked at 3 counties in Colorado, basically because I can show them, and I've been working on it, building up this program for, people who want to do like it even works in like foreclosures and stuff. Because if you guys know, I know well, obviously, Curtis, Routt County where Steamboat is. Park County is just the next county over from Jefferson where I live. Park County is, of course, where South Park, the TV show, is based on. Weld County is up in Greeley. If anybody looks at the Colorado map, it's Greeley on the way to Fort Collins in Wyoming. So it talks about like Weld is growth spillover from Denver. It's mixed rural and residential. So there's liquidity. Weld's a huge county. It's a big county just north of Denver. Park is cheap land. I mean, you can get a 5-acre land by Antero Reservoir in Hartselle for like $5,000. So that's a pretty good thing. Really quick, and then Routt. So it's got cheap land, high diligence risk, access and utilities kill bad deals, higher ceiling values in Routt, fewer properties, premium micro markets because of Steamboat Springs, obviously a resort community, $1 million homes. It's a great. I worked for the fire department for there for 2 years, and then so in small counties you're competing against 5 to 15 people, usually not hedge funds, and that changes the value. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Let me welcome real quick a couple more people that just came on. Hey, Helena, what's up? Hey, everybody from Melbourne, Australia. Hey, what's up? How are you? Long time no
Well,
see.
I'm actually not in
Hey,
Melbourne anymore. I'm up on the border. But yes, it is lovely to be here and it's a lovely sunny day. And I just got permission to go back to work from my cardiologist. Very happy.
well, that's good news.
Good for you.
Yeah. So how? Hey, real quick. So because I've mentioned obviously it's been a few years since, I mean a little while, but you want to kind of like how you run your because you are doing everything in the United States, but you don't live here. Kind of maybe go back to when you set up your Wyoming LLC and all. I don't know if you still have it, but kind of how you work. Well, sorry, I just because Helena's awesome. She's a good friend. She's been around with us for about 6 years. So I just like maybe if you can just kind of let everybody know kind of how you were able to operate your business here.
Okay, basically just networking. I had to wait for technology to catch up with me big time. And that was my biggest factor. Every time I thought I got one step forward, it got knocked back 3 steps with technical things of ways I could do things and ways that I couldn't. There's still a few more things that I would like to be there on soil to do. I've attempted wholesaling so many times, but I've always had my initial love was to tax deed properties. And that was where I thought I could do the most value. I'm unfortunately a person that is shiny object syndrome, which I think a lot of us suffer from. Me, I will admit to 100%. So that meant that everything that was going okay, I got bored with very fast because never actually getting any compensation for any of this, my bank account was starting to dwindle. At the moment, I would love to get into the tax deed side of things. I've been pretty much an AI junkie for, well, probably the last 12 months and absolutely loving all that. I do have a bit of a sidebar that helps me mentally occasionally, which is just doing art. Just be able to give AI a prompt or Canva or something like that and say, go create it for me. And they can do so much of a better job than I can. But getting back to uh, the actual wholesaling side of business, I've never actually got to the point of having backers behind me that were on the same page as what I was. And I think that was always where I fell down. I had the plans, I could see potential in a whole lot of other people, but that potential they didn't see. So therefore, it was very hard to pull off a plan. So that's kind of where I am. I want to go to Detroit. I have a lead at the moment on 129 units in 4 buildings that I am going to take down for myself. and that will be a nice income, hopefully with seller finance for a little bit. But debt service ratio is the biggest factor, and 97% of those buildings, those rooms are Section 8, which is where I want to really focus on. I want to be able to wholesale deeds for 100 properties over the next 2 years in Detroit and 100 properties to wholesale in Cincinnati. So that's the timeline at the moment.
That's awesome. Hey,
Totally.
I also let me. I'm gonna try to hook you up with our Michigan group because we got like 8 or 9 people in Michigan.
That would be awesome. I would
Yeah,
love
we
that,
got
and I would love the intro to the tax deed version too, please. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. I
Awesome.
know that's awesome. And Kevin was supposed to be on tonight. He still may come on, so you get it. Maybe if he shows up, you can catch up with Kevin too, because he has, he's
Yeah,
supposed to
that's
be on.
okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to be driving back home, so I will catch the replay,
well,
and
it's
I
like what
thank you
11,
guys
almost
very much for your
11:30
time.
there. What is 11:30 in
Thank
the morning?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11:23. Yeah, pretty close.
All right.
But we've got daylight savings as of 2 weeks' time, I think it is.
Yeah.
So
Ours is
we
kind of
we are
over.
the
Ours
we
ends
are.
in. Yeah. Well, and then, like I said, if you have to go or something, I'll just send you the video in the
Yeah.
morning, and then
Thank you very much,
connect.
Nate.
And then I'll connect you with Kevin.
Okay,
Catch up. Okay. Cool.
catch ya. Bye.
All right. Cool. All right. That's awesome. So, cool. So we want to talk about like with obviously we'll do some evaluation and stuff with these. I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit. So, like I said, if you got a small counties, you got a lot of different opportunities and way to approach it. So first, I'm going to kind of just go down here real quick and show you guys a little bit more on the obviously on the you got a little bit different on the AHJs in these counties because you literally could go and pull up Routt County and you could have the city clerk or you could have the county clerk probably has two. When I worked for the city of Steamboat Springs for the fire marshal's office, the city clerk had like two other jobs. She was doing like three jobs. You'll get that in a lot of small communities. So we're going to talk about like how to search the town on Colorado Community Media and how to look for development and infrastructure mentions. Colorado Community Media, everybody has like in different areas. If you're looking at smaller communities, particularly to have less competition, like this company has about 20 small community papers. Evergreen has the Canyon Courier, which is owned by this company. There's like 2 or 3 companies that have owned it. My parents have subscribed to it since before I was born. But a lot of these papers you guys have seen in the previous weeks when we've done Zooms, they've had, you have to, everybody knows the counties have to advertise. So, like in our area, they use the Golden transcript from Golden, Colorado, where Coors is, because it's like $10 or whatever. So you can search small newspapers and think about that. A lot of times, and sometimes they have paywalls, sometimes they don't. RCIC cannot get you through a paywall. Speaking of Kevin, yeah, Helena, I think she probably left. Yeah. So anyway, so if you're looking at these small communities, a lot of times you guys can, get onto like the Golden Transcript or the Summit Daily in Summit County, Colorado. So don't be afraid to go look for them because you can set it up. You can set your agents up. If you guys, and I always tell people where agent mode is. You go to agent mode, set your agents up. You could have it go and check for, local media. Just don't use more than like one of your agents, and kind of focus in and kind of train it because you want to. The best information is going to be at AHJs. So we want to kind of get into a little bit. I'm going to kind of show you a little bit, and then I'll let Curtis. When we get to the tax liens, I'll turn to you a little bit. But this is the IRS stuff. I put in those 2 websites you gave me, subscriptions of the IRS and the IRS auction sites. But I'm going to jump down real quick, and then I'll come back up to tax liens. I gotta find one more thing. I put it in for the jurisdictions, so I need to I need to go back up and get my off ramp. And so you want to look at like different counties. You can put in like it's pretty cool. You can put in some good stuff. There's our logo, by the way. And there's a handout. I'm going to give you guys this handout tonight. This has all the information, so anybody kind of knows that If I don't, if we don't go to the so these are the off ramps, by the way. Okay, so just to show you guys. So I give everybody, just so you know, a PDF of everything that we cover. So I may not go over it because otherwise we could be here for 4 or 5 hours. But don't forget, if you see something on the screen you want me to explain, let me know. So let's go ahead and look up. These are the off ramps. Like I said, you can look at them, and you've got the whole website, and you've got the little, I call them the off ramps. So like I said, think about it as a community, as like an interstate. These are your off ramps. This is where your gas station is, your hotel, your Cracker Barrel, your gas. That's what those are. And then it's like I said, then you jump back on the interstate after you're done. So you go to these different websites. Here's the assessor and GIS data sets, which you can use to pull for comps and legal descriptions, which is great. You can go to the tax assessor and you can put in an address, you can put in a street in some cases and pull up like 5 to 10 sales. And you can then just copy and paste using your mouse or whatever, put it into the Ask Anything, set up a project for comps and put in those addresses. And you can actually start like getting down to what, you don't have to trust like Zillow or Redfin. Yeah, I still use those, and those will pop up in the searches here. But set up a project where you're putting that information in from the AHJ, where it has to be 100% legal because it's legal documents. So if you go to like, let's just go to Routt County. Let's go and see. I'll just see what's going on. We'll just check this. Now sometimes you'll get a 404. So this is Routt County, where Steamboat Springs is. And keep in mind, so when you guys have onboarding, you kind of want to, once you put in your counties and you do that 1 hour, hour and a half, probably the first 7 days you want to visit the counties, generate it, ask it for the AHJs, for the off ramps and links to the counties, and where foreclosures are, evictions, what exactly you're looking for. So that way you can kind of get used to how they're set up, because some counties are small enough. They're not all in one place. I've shown everybody like Jefferson County, Arapahoe County, all that, El Paso County, Colorado, where generally it's the website that comes up or the page is actually only that county. You're not going to see like in a small county where you might see like they might do 5 different things out of that office, or they might they all have desks in there, but it's one office. That's how it was in Steamboat. It changed after I left there, but at that time, like, the finance guy and the HR guy were basically in the same suite, that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind when you start talking about local communities. But if you guys get here, here's some. These are, and they're all different, guys. This is a different setup. That's another reason you want to visit them after you onboard, because these are all, and go through and look at these and how these are. These are actually the tax, the treasurer's deeds. So you can pull these up. Let me see how they set it up. So here goes the treasurer's deed. So, and I'll save this so I can send it to you guys later if you guys want to read it more in depth. So this is a public auction for a treasurer's deed in Routt County. They're going to have the legal description, a certificate of purchase, and it's this is a livestock company that filed an application for public auction of a certificate of option for treasurer's deed. So it talks about when the sale is, March 11th, 2026. People can still go and bid on this. So this is an official document. So guys, you can kind of like pull this information up, to find that when you guys need that information. You go and you look at somewhere else, like, so let's look at Weld compared to like, because Weld's a major 100,000 people, or well over 100,000 people. Well, theirs is a lot different. You guys can tell. In some cases, it could just be the vendor too. You can have 2 counties like Boulder County and Broomfield County in Colorado right next to each other. They use different vendors. Boulder's got a lot of information. It's very well organized. Broomfield doesn't. Broomfield only has like maybe 3 or 4 foreclosures a year. We're obviously looking at treasurer's deed, so they'll have their policy on here. So if you want to do business in Weld County, you should definitely read it. But what I would do is I just go through here and I just copy and paste, and then I would go put it in RCIC and set up a project for Weld County, and basically start building all the Weld County stuff so you can just rinse and repeat. Because like I was saying, when you got your projects, you guys, it keeps everything together. So you could have 100 different topics in that one project. So every time you're doing like a treasurer's deed, you got Weld County, you got Park, you got you could have 15, 20. There's 64 counties in Colorado. You could have 20, 25 projects. Same with you're doing foreclosures. You're doing your tool list. Use your projects basically. Bring all the information to process it, to analyze your properties, to do all the due diligence on them. That way you keep it all together. So here's it talking about all the different requirements of and it's going to go to the printer for some reason. I hit print by accident. Good luck on that. So I would just go ahead and copy and paste this, and you'll get all the information you guys need. It's obviously they'll have their policies, and they'll have public notices. So here's your auction schedule, guys. So that's another thing you need. Now, when you're looking for foreclosures, unlike it's not a they have to give public notices for a treasurer's deed sold. They call it it's something else if it's foreclosures. They basically will have a pre-sale list. They'll have the NEDs, which are the notice of election demands. They'll also have the pre-sales, and then they'll have the continuances. A lot of times there's not really a lot of continuances. A lot of times the continuances this time of the year are basically saying that there's not an auction, obviously the week of Christmas, or there may not be one. If it's generally they have an auction on Monday, you guys know a lot of holidays happen on Mondays. I don't know what jurisdictions ever schedule on Mondays for that reason, but that's kind of where you want to go. And you guys can see this is the treasurer and public trustee. So obviously in Weld County, the public trustee will also have foreclosures. You get your treasurer check, but here you go. You can go to the same department. So while you're there, you guys can go over here. Here's your NED range. I'll show this to you guys while you're here. So I'll put in February 1st through, let's just put in let's put in yesterday, and basically, and this is a common vendor in Colorado, and probably a common vendor around the country. You guys know this is all the foreclosures that have been filed in Weld County, which is Greeley, Loveland. There's a few other. You guys see it on the map. It's like Fort Collins is Larimer, but Greeley is Weld, and it goes out a little bit east. And so you guys can get all the information. And then you can click on these numbers. These are the case numbers, and you can get all the information you need. It's pretty good. You get the balance, do the sale date, the status. Real quick, let me just kind of pull one up.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing what you're seeing, hey.
Okay, I figured that. Thanks for telling me, because I'm kind of making sure. Okay, because sometimes when I switch the HJs, so like I said, okay, so I came back to Weld. So everybody knows I was kind of on the Weld, which is the treasurer and stuff. And then I come over here, and now I'm back on the this is the treasurer site. But here now I go back to the Weld foreclosure. Let me do that one more time just to make sure, because we got some new people on that I want to make sure you guys know. Like I said, I always bring that up because sometimes I don't realize that. So obviously we put in the search, and you guys can look at anything. If you know the foreclosure number, name, if you know the name of the people, or you know the zip code, things like that, you can put in. Here's the statuses. They got all the different statuses that deal with foreclosures. There could be a TRO, a temporary restraining order, to block it. There could be new foreclosure, NED recorded, anything, bankruptcy sale, bankruptcy prior to NED, bankruptcy stayed, all kinds of stuff, cured, a dentist, deeded, deferred. There's all the reasons, right? But now we get down and obviously into the details. So let's just bring up Patricia Nelson. So are you guys able to see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the foreclosure. It's going to give you guys the address, the legal description, and it's going to give you the person. They're also going to give you all the documents in here. They'll give you the sale information, which is good. They'll give you the lien redemption, how it can be redeemed. There's not a lot of information yet available for it. The publication, they do the Greeley Tribune. We were mentioning in those small newspapers, Greeley Tribune. So they have to put a publication date in there for 5/1/2026 is when it will actually be published. It's not published now. So here's the thing, it's early. You guys could get this property and start negotiating. You could actually talk to the seller, but here, guess what? Skip tracing, right? Why not just go to the mortgage company or go to the mortgage company's attorney? You got their information now. You got the file number, you got their name, you got their contact, you've got their address, their email, you got phone, and believe it or not, they still use fax. So you could actually start contacting these people and seeing if you can get the property before the sale. You got a cure when the attempted deadline and the cure deadline, and you got all the information. And here's the beauty part of it: you get down to the date, record a date, You get the principal, outstanding principal, when the balance was due, what the interest rate is, interest type, current holders, Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. So it's actually a state agency. So that makes it a little bit, probably a little bit better. Obviously, there's bankruptcy, and then you get back to the information. So generally, like I said, we weren't really going to go much into foreclosures, but I was showing you that a lot of these counties you can just go to on the same website. So while you're there, if you're looking at tax liens or treasury deeds, kind of, you can kind of work your way around to see what other opportunities are there. So like you go back to the deeds and all that. There's that. I'll send that to you guys later. You got Routt County, and so let me go back to where we're at. Let me try to do that one more time, and I'll get right back to where we're at, where we should be. So that's kind of what the treasury deeds, and then, like I said, every place is different. Tomorrow night we'll talk about surplus, but here's where you guys go. So like CCM and most of these small newspapers, a lot of these are owned by companies now. So this is a company. There's actually another company that owns, like, for Summit County, Steamboat Springs, Vale. They own a lot of the ones on the Western Slope, up in Winter Park and Granby. So you can kind of look around, like ask for small communities. Even if you're doing foreclosures and stuff, ask for, because a lot of times there's some small newspapers in Denver, and it's cheaper for the jurisdictions to advertise in these smaller newspapers than it is in the Denver Post. So they don't have to be in there where it's seen a lot. All they got to do is put an ad in there. It doesn't matter if it's even seen by one person. They just have to publicize it. So you guys, here it talks about 18 to 24 neighborhood papers: Arvada Press, Brighton Standard, Blade, Commerce City Sentinel. So you can get a lot of other information if you're real estate. You start wanting to do market reality research on a community because you're going to buy foreclosures or evictions or whatever you're going to do. These are also a great way to get more information. Colorado Sun's pretty good. You can actually get a lot of information from it. There's actually one called the Colorado News Mapping Project. Look for these organizations, because like when you're looking for probates and some other ones, there's actually some different organizations that consolidate and aggregate. And that means you can get a lot more information together. Here's your treasurer and tax sites. So, I can put in all 64 counties in Colorado. There's just a lot of better things. Here's the tools and stuff. So let me pull up one of these for the newspapers. Then Curtis will talk about tax liens, because treasury deeds are a different breed. And so if you guys want to go more into that, like I said, I'm going to send you over the PDF, and I'll send you over like two of them tonight. I'll send you over what that one in Routt County looks like. That way you can kind of learn about it if you want to start like playing with it. And I do have another PDF to how to set all this up with small communities, what to look for, especially newspapers. But let's go ahead and see if I can bring up one more for Colorado Media. So this is Colorado Media, right? There's Canyon Courier, which is Evergreen's newspaper, my hometowns. But they got a lot of these small towns, right? So when you guys want to go, they obviously have to public legal notices is where you want to go. And so you can go here. This is where they go and they place them. But that kind of shows you, when you guys have to deal with these small newspapers, you might get 25 or 30. But while you're here, guys, you're on Brighton, and here Canyon Courier and Clear Creek County are right next to each other in the two counties. So you might, if you're looking in my town in Evergreen, you might still want to look at Clear Creek, because it's the next county over, and our fire department actually covers about 20% of Clear Creek County. You guys get into some other areas, Douglas County, you might want to check it with the Highlands Ranch Herald. Jefferson Transcript, there's Littleton. So like I said, you can get a lot of these little newspapers, and they got search features, so you can go in here and you can look for public notices, and it'll come up. So you guys want to kind of look. There's a lot of good information. I mean, you guys can tell they're not like, there's different stories about, in our communities, local politicians and stuff. So you get a lot of localized information when you use these community newspapers. So it's kind of a cool thing to kind of look at when you guys are doing this. Let me do this one more time. I usually hate doing this, but I like to tell people now. So if you guys ever, like I said, if you ever can't see the screen, just let me know. All right, I'm going to go to tax liens real quick. Curtis, everybody, Curtis is pretty well versed in IRS liens, particularly. But do you want to go ahead and kind of let people know what kind of things, while I scroll to what we're talking about, kind of what your background is with liens and stuff?
Yes, uh, back in the 80s, I was very active in attending IRS auctions, and I got into it in kind of a backwards way. And I quickly discovered that a lot of these things are cans of worms, title wise, I guess would be the best way. It was put to me that way by an IRS seizure advisor that I saw in Los Angeles downtown. And he said, "Why do you want to get into these? These are just nothing but cans of worms." And I didn't really believe him until about 6 months later. I realized they're kind of a mess at that far um, when they are to the point of being executed as a lien. They're typically they're no different than any other encumbrance or lien in that each different type, like Nate, what you were talking about, treasury deeds or treasurer deeds from property taxes, they all have a process where they end up being perfected and turned into cash for the holder of the lien. And a lot of them are public auctions, no different than a foreclosure. So when you get into a mortgage or a trust deed, uh, if you're behind on a loan, there's a process that ends up in foreclosure. There's an auction. There's a whole process that is particular to a trust deed, or a abstract of judgment is a notice where there might be a judgment against a property. It's just another lien or encumbrance. It has its own process. Well, the IRS has their own process. And the problem with the IRS, I found out, was that um, mostly people, when they get in trouble with taxes, their federal taxes, when they get behind on that, a lot of people don't know what to do. They panic. They deed the property to their grandmother's third cousin or whatever to try to get an arm's length from that, and it starts to create problems with the title. And the taxes might be owed by Joe Blow, but and that's the right title and interest of Joe Blow will be auctioned off next Monday. But the problem was 2 years ago, the title was deeded to the third cousin of the grandmother or something, and to an offshore trust in the Cayman Islands. And so it becomes kind of a puzzle title wise. But in that can of worms, there's great discounts because they aren't clean. The titles are usually not very marketable until you clean the title up. So it was a whole process, but it's no different. You have to understand the process of the way that the IRS tax liens perfect themselves into money for the IRS, a collection of taxes. No different than you have to understand the process of a foreclosure and a bank turning that loan and that process into money back into their till based on their auction process. And each state is different. The states usually are the ones that have the processes that override everything. They guide the process by state law. The recording of all these different instruments are subject to state law. They're not record. They have no special place just because the IRS is a federal agency. They have no special place with respect to the publicity requirements, like Nate was talking about small newspapers or large newspapers. Depends on the county, and they have a legal obligation to publish these sales in accordance with state law. and there's some leeway they have. Like Nate was saying, some of these small papers, you can kind of get away with a little bit more. I have a lot of stories.
Yeah. All they have to do is publish them. They don't even have to, people don't even have to see it. And that's so some of them.
Well, they have to meet a requirement.
Yeah, but I mean, like
Yeah,
it's different the reporting, putting it into the Golden Transcript compared to the Denver Post. There's a different price.
Yeah. Well, there's some different types of sales that IRS liens can end up in. There's without getting in the weeds very much, unless there's some interest in it, but there's administrative sales, which is like a normal foreclosure, usually all administrative. The property taxes, they're all administrative according to the county that the property's in. The IRS has administrative remedies to collect money through their sales. And then there's judicial, where now you're getting into if the IRS is perfecting their lien and with respect to collection, and it's through the judicial process, now you're going through a title cleansing process. Basically, the courts are set up to hear the case and then rule with a judgment, and that allows the IRS to collect under a judicial process, and that is clean title. There is no right of redemption, where the administrative procedure, there's a 180-day right of redemption. And
I was going to throw this. The other thing is, a lot of people don't know. It was like, if you guys look for tax liens, and like I said, it's all also still recorded at the county. The IRS does actually record them still at the in the DOJ in the county. So you can sometimes, but if you ask for liens, make sure you kind of specify when you guys look at those AHJ, those counties, their websites, and they have the search feature. You can ask. Obviously, RCIC will guide you. You can prompt it and get it to take you to the off ramp for those. But if you get there and you can't find exactly what you're looking for, sometimes you'll see them mixed in with the foreclosures and the evictions. A lot of times in the smaller counties. In the bigger ones, they still may have a separation, but they've obviously got more employees. I was talking to Park County today. I saw something on a Facebook page for them. They have 48,000 properties. It's property tax time. The department in the county that deals with property taxes only has 2 employees. So they're trying to get people to obviously pay their property taxes online. And people were upset because then there's like a 2% or whatever the credit card fee is that they charge, and it's like ridiculous. So, that's kind of not really to the point of what we're talking about tonight, but keep in mind, like I said, a lot of these times these counties, Arapahoe County, El Paso County, look at your counties. Like I said, in your first 7 days, first 30 days of using RCIC, people, and I'm talking to a lot of people that are not on tonight, that I know like 6 people have asked me for the replay, that they will still have these recorded at the county. So you can find a lot of these liens, and sometimes they're I don't know, Curtis, they are easier to get. I don't know, they don't have much of a process, do they?
Well, they are identical. They're subject to the same identical laws of recording, and the same. They don't take, the IRS takes no priority over any other lien with just because they're the IRS. It's normally not including property taxes, but the normally first in line, first in right. So whoever records first has a superior right in time and in right than somebody who records subordinate to that. So the recording laws are set forth by the state. The IRS is no different than any other. If it's a judgment, if it is a first trust deed, a second trust deed, a third trust deed, obviously, just in the name, a first trust deed recorded before the second trust deed. And if the second trust deed is foreclosing, it's going to be subject to the first trust deed or any superior lien or encumbrance is recorded superior to it. So those recording laws equally apply to no matter what type of instrument that's being recorded, whether it's a federal tax lien, a trust deed, a judgment, the abstract of the judgment, a lis pendens, a notice of pending action. All those things have certain priority rights, and I'm probably not saying anything new to anybody here in this panel because it's just basic real estate. The where it gets a little tricky sometimes is that in doing searches, you might, and this is one of the main mistakes I made. One of the first big mistake I ever made with federal tax lien was I was very good at my due diligence, except the first time that I didn't pick up that during the course of the existence of the federal tax lien, the mortgage on the property, the taxpayer had filed bankruptcy 2 years prior and did not pay on any of the mortgage for about 18 months. And I didn't have a final balance on the mortgage. I just calculated it not knowing about the bankruptcy. Well, the bankruptcy stayed everything. The 18 months accumulated, and I didn't lose money, but I didn't make as much as I calculated I would because I overlooked 18 months of payments that I kind of got burned on, but it was my own oversight. So it's really important that legal term, the custodia legis, whereas the legal custody can stop all collection activity, no matter what type, whether it's a federal tax lien, a property tax, stop everything if there's a bankruptcy filed, because that now stays everything by legal custody. The bankruptcy court has the legal custody over everything with respect to that bankrupt petition, and everything that's filed or not filed. It stays everything. So it's important to calculate all those time periods that can easily be overlooked if you're not aware of the length of time. And the other custodia legis is a probate. And it's not necessarily that a probate or a bankruptcy has sales per se, although they do. It's basically liquidating pre-existing positions like an IRS tax lien or a property tax. Usually the property tax is sacred. It's a super lien. No matter when it's recorded or when it has come due, it's superior to everything just about. But there's well, obviously there's mortgages, there's stayed, all those different liens and encumbrances that normally exist against real property can be stopped, manipulated, sold, or disposed of according to whatever the bankruptcy court or a probate court deems to be expedient to their action that they're overseeing. So that legal custody kind of supersedes everything. But so it's important to know about those things. But in general, I would say that without going to IRS auction or waiting to that, normally there are probably hundreds of regular notices of federal tax liens that you'll run across that are filed that will pop up against the property that you're interested in, and they're nowhere near to the point of going to collection, to auction, but they will have a time and a place as far as their right and the impact that they'll have financially on a property with respect to other liens and encumbrances that are superior or inferior to it. And at that point, they're not really any different than any other lien or encumbrance that you're going to run across. because they're going to be established. Their time and right is established according to when they were recorded in the county that the property is situated in, and then they take effect at that point and establish their place in the whole chain of encumbrances or liens that you'll be dealing with on any given property.
And that's pretty fascinating. Cool. I mean, that's what I said. I've never, because everybody else, hey, get into tax liens, and it's like the tax lien gurus seem to like do more seminars than the fix and flip gurus.
Yeah, that's where I really kind of got my first inkling that term tax lien is so used, and it's primarily used for property taxes, which are a completely different animal. There's just a state situation and administered by each county that the property is situated in, and each state has their own way of dealing with delinquent property taxes and different time periods, different redemption periods, different ways of acquiring title, different ways of auctioning. And that to me is far more complicated than an IRS tax lien. So I just know if I come across a property that has property taxes that are owed, I'm going to pay it because I don't want to deal with that stuff. And and if it prices me out of the property, so be it. But yeah, it's a different animal.
So thanks, Curtis. Anybody wants to talk more about tax liens with Curtis or the IRS liens? Let me know, and I'll, obviously you guys can find him in the Facebook groups as well, and on Messenger. So, hey, I'm kind of showing you guys. Today I worked on skip tracing. So this master manual. This all has gone into the GPT, into the knowledge, you guys, when we build the GPTs, which is over here. Here's the prompt assistant. So obviously we have, this is actually the one that's actually powering it, is the master manual version 2. And I did generate so obviously there's version 1, which I posted for you guys. Version 2 just has some directions. It actually instructs the GPT how to respond and what to do. So I did create a prompt. Also, that is it in here? The prompt is in here. I posted it, so it is actually also in a PDF in the RCIC group and the associates group. So you guys can download it and test it for skip tracing. What I would do is generally put it into obviously your prompt bar, but like I've been saying, I would just set it up on projects, because you can go and set up how to create a new project. So here you might want to just put for you, put your skip tracing, and then that project, I can show you, like I've got, for the distress intelligence project, you guys can see how many projects you can keep running, and I'll give you the date. So it's a lot easier to go back and remember. And don't forget, you can also add sources. So you can add all your contacts, upload sources to give deeper context about your project. So just, you can build one out for your skip tracing. You can build one out for your ARV. I put the ARV one in RCIC in the Facebook group as well. So all this, you guys can, what we're working on, MRA and all that stuff. So you guys build out your projects. It becomes easier to keep them, to keep everything together, because, you get into chats. You guys know that chats is kind of a little bit in the weeds on some ways. But let me pull up one more that I was going to show one more thing real quick. Hey, Kevin, are you on? Yep, you're still on.
Yeah, well, I'm having a hard time keeping my phone to work.
Oh.
The front lens on the phone fell out.
Hey, so real quick, you want to introduce yourself, and then you're back, because you got that interesting stuff that you did in Kansas City back with Glenn and stuff. So, guys, this is
I'm about ready to fire it all back up again now.
So I think, Curtis, I've mentioned Kevin to you a couple of times. He's his family has had the Stevenson Auto Group in Denver West. So I was talking to you about that the day when you drive down into Denver. You couldn't miss him. The family name is still on the dealerships. Even would they sell all this stuff for, Kevin? Like $1 billion or something? Like,
yeah, it was. That, and then you got Denver West, and they're still on the mall. I think what Greg was telling me, they're going to be hanging on to it, but the writing's on the wall in automotive, because there's really not a whole lot you're going to be able to do with gas power engines when everything's going to a different format. So it shuts everything down.
Yeah, but that's stuff you did with the Federal Reserve and stuff, and that stuff you did.
Well, yeah, basically what ended up happening is I'm one of the founders of the private money industry. We were trying to put together a loan guarantee fund to back real estate. And at the time, you could only do it if you were an SEC broker and you had all these other things going on. It turns out that the SEC chairman, basically Obama's economic alphabet soup, were sent to Kansas City for a meeting. And we were invited to a meeting at the Federal Reserve on the same day. Turns out we were invited to that meeting because they wanted to ask us some questions. That was a little weird. Okay, come on now. FDIC chairman and the SEC chairman. I mean, they want to ask you some questions. They wanted to know what you thought about theirs, what they were doing. And the whole point of the matter is we were told that we could get a loan at a bank. All we had to do is put 10% in a bank account somewhere, and they'd give us the rest, no questions asked. That means you're not filing applications and going through all these processes and procedures. So we went about trying to find the $100,000 to get $1 million loan thing, and that's where you try to syndicate putting people's money together, throwing it in a bank account, and there it is. That wasn't available. It wasn't happening. You weren't going to get it. So in essence, we started the whole thing by proxy, and they've got a whole new division in the well, it's not new now, but another division in the Federal Reserve System is the Community Relations Division out of all this. So yeah, and now I'm having to go back, and the county has messed up a whole bunch of tax appraisals and over a number of years actually, and now they've monkeyed with my own personal deed to the house. I had a lot next door that I sold, and they combined the two without telling me. So basically it was an illegal taking. So I'm having to take this to court, not just because of the fact that I am, personally affected, but that there's over 100 other individuals in the same boat. Now, if you're going to go ahead and have a property that's your own home, and you have a mortgage on it, obviously you have to have insurance on it. They base that on the property identification number. And when you look it up online, there it is, right? Okay, somebody else owns my property, for one. For two, if you had a mortgage on that property, now it becomes null and void because your property identifier has changed and your property configuration was not what you originally purchased, okay, or financed. So now you're in foreclosure. Now, the additional liability for that lot was covered on the liability, on the insurance policy. And of course, nobody knew that this was going to be the case. So when you're doing, when they're going through and during their occasional audits to make sure everything's still up and running right, that's when you're going to get caught up. So I've got over 100 and some odd people that are in this boat. And because I know what I know and have an established expertise in all this, I have a responsibility to file a lawsuit and indicate on that lawsuit the possibility of having a class action set up. So I've since contacted the individual firm that's representing all the taxpayers in Jackson County to the tune of $500 million worth of liability on the taxes. And they told me that it was an illegal taking and that I need to send the information to them so they could go ahead and get it done. So I don't know how much this is going to be worth, but you're talking about a due process violation, not a small one. And the fact that the counties their sole existence is to basically take care of the property deeds and all that kind of stuff. And they have a court established there in the county to help facilitate that. And they have breached that fiduciary. And that's why we have a problem here. There's no way to put the genie back in the bottle. It creates all kinds of havoc, etc., so forth and so on. This can't write this stuff, okay? This is real estate 101, and they broke it.
Yeah.
You can't trust these people to be able to take care of their duties, and overseeing the deeds. So what does that do to the value of those deeds and the value of the properties there? I spent 12, 14 years trying to turn around an economic black hole, wrote a paper on it, published it, and these guys have basically thrown it on the trash can. They even did the same thing on the odd number years to the value of businesses. So, to say the least, this is an absolute disaster. It's a mess for the county. It's a mess for the state. They're hip deep in it, and I'm right at the top of the food chain here, getting ready to lead the charge. So I don't know how far this is going to go, and how more in the weeds it's going to be, but I will definitely be keeping everybody posted.
I love it when it's like it prints a picture of somebody. It's not me. And it's like, hey, I got.
Yeah, well, it is because the fact that we are who we are. Okay, so that's why I haven't been able to get back in here, because all this other stuff has come up. I did, you can file your own deeds and do all that kind of stuff, but I kind of had something in the back of my neck that told me I needed to go ahead and hire a real estate agent for a $6,000 sale.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because the title company filed for the insurance portion, and the insurance portion activated an investigation, and I have those results. Fact is, we got them up against the back wall, and they can't get themselves off of it, because the title insurance company has stated that everything was filed properly, all the documents were properly taken care of, all the descriptions were proper, everything was done properly. So it's definitely on the county, and there's no way they can get out of it. But there's all these other people, and what their instances are, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? I might have been the first one to try to sell that extra lot. Okay. So it's a Pandora's box, to say the least.
Cool. All right. Hey, everybody, let me introduce a couple of people. Everybody knows Matt, because he's part of PMA, our PMA group, for 5 years.
Yep.
But let me introduce Amanda. Do you want to kind of give everybody what you're doing and what your experience has been? Amanda came aboard on Saturday, so our newest person.
Yeah, hi.
Cool.
So I, grew up with an entrepreneurial father. I'm pretty much probably intermediate when it comes to investing. I became a landlord in 2009. I spent 25 years in the car business, mostly Jaguar Land Rover, Mercedes, BMW, Audi stores, and was just tired of dealerships. So in 2022, I started wholesaling in addition to other stuff I had done. And I recently became interested in curative title, and I've always kind of been techie.
Which is why we
And
talk about all the AI stuff between us.
Yeah, Amanda,
yeah. Hi,
did
Kevin.
you know that you could own the real estate that those car dealerships are on?
That's what his family did. They sold
Okay.
they sold the dealerships, and the dealerships had to keep.
And you, being in the industry that you're in, you could look up Stevenson's Automotive.
So I actually was in Colorado. I worked for the Red Nolan Group, and I'm very familiar with
Okay.
Stevenson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chuck is my uncle, and Kenton. There's 11 cousins there, and they didn't get the keys to the car when they graduated. They got the keys to the dealership.
Yeah, that's nice. I actually almost went to work for Stevenson Lexus at one point in time,
Well,
but
you
I
should have
stayed where
done
I
that.
was.
Yeah, you should have done that.
Yeah.
They also owned
I'm just
the
saying,
office
you should have
park
done
and
that.
all around it, like all that commercial development. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of cool. So I know you're really into tech, into the AI stuff now. So that's kind of I think how we actually met, talking.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. So you have any questions or anything or any? And I know tax liens is kind of boring, but I mean everybody gets hit up with it. We kind of had to do it, and Curtis is like, he's really good on this stuff. So I wanted to give him a night to kind of talk about tax liens and treasure deeds, because there's a lot of opportunity out there. But what exactly are you doing now? I mean, like you're wholesaling still, or?
I'm wholesaling, although I am actually taking down my first slow flip, which I'm following Scott Jelnick's method,
Yeah.
where I'm
Right.
paying like $30,000 cash for this property in Mobile, and the tenant's been in there 27 years, and I'm going to give her first right of refusal to be the tenant buyer. And since I'm paying cash for this, it's not quite like his model. I'll immediately start making. She's been paying, I think, 600 a month in rent, and like I said, she's been in there 27 years for two other landlords. And I told this landlord that, and that's one of the reasons he did a price drop for me. From originally, I locked it lower than anyone in my professional network at 60, and then once we did the walkthrough, we needed a serious price reduction. So he agreed to sell it to me for 32.5. And I'm gonna just basically offer her the ability to become a homeowner or a tenant buyer using Scott Jelnick's method. And I'm excited because I know that even if she decides that she doesn't want to do that, which I think I'd be really surprised if she doesn't, this is going to be my first slow flip. And I like it because I view it as, even though I worked in Highline stores, I view it as buy here, pay here housing. And so that appeals to me.
Yeah,
that would be a really easy thing to do, because all you need to do is maybe with what you ran into when you did the inspection, you could go ahead and charge her like 45 and set her up on a payment plan, and you're done.
Exactly. The market actually supports a lot higher than that. The ARV on this house. Yeah,
here's the thing, though. You don't want a stress. You don't want to stress the situation. If you're getting it for like 32 or 35 and you put 10 grand on it, okay, you're going to have a much better chance of being able to make it through that thing. And then if you do have to repossess it, or she passes away or something else goes on there, you're not out anything. Okay. What you need to understand is, and this is what nobody is teaching here, is risk-free real estate. You need to practice that. There's no sense in being able to, you have an asset that is under paper that's worth more than what the paper's for. If there's a foreclosure or something like that happens, you still have the asset for what the current asset value is. But at the same time, you're getting your money out of it and making a profit without all the hassles. So if you have somebody that's not going to have a problem making that payment because you're charging 45 instead of 60 or something, it makes all the difference in the world. This is another reason why private money works, because you don't have, you get a loan, you're making simple interest payments. Okay. There is no principal amortization or any of that kind of stuff, nonsense. So you have a stable situation. You're not going to be as likely to have a trip on it. And it's maintenance free, because she's going to take care of all the problems that are in there if she wants to, and you don't have to hassle with any of it. So you made a quick $15,000 profit secured by the real estate. Move on to the next project.
Yeah,
that's what you need to be doing here, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 12 months with any of this. And I'm telling you that straight. I've been saying it for years. Nate can tell you that. And I think enough people looking at what's been going on the last 12 months can agree to that. Okay. We no longer have the same economy. We're not even going to be paying bills the way we did. Our dollar isn't going to be the same. None of that. That whole thing from Bretton Woods on is gone. So now we're shifting into an entirely new way of paying for things, an entirely new way of looking at what money is. Okay. So you really need to, that is now legal tender.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Samantha,
so you really need to you need to take the easy way on that one, because it is an easy deal. Keep it that way. Don't try to go for anything more than, tack on $12,000 to $15,000 onto whatever you paid for it. Set her up on a payment plan and move on.
Yeah, so Amanda, what you should do too is look at new project and just set up a slow flip project, and do put all your numbers and all your all your calculations and stuff in there, and it'll actually really dial in pretty quick.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just do a slow, do a flow.
And if you can find more like that, more power to you.
Yeah, then use the distress intelligence.
Those are hard to find. We got lucky in that regard.
Yeah, and use the distress intelligence feature in in the prompt assistant. Guys, I'll run everybody through while I'm talking to you, but use, obviously the prompt assistant is the one we're calling core now. You could actually then even just set it, like I said, set up your project for slow flips or whatever you're doing, and then put all your calculations and numbers. But start using this to, like the AHJ features, where you can go through and ask for the off ramps and links to the markets you're looking to do slow flips in, and you can dial them in and bring them in just like I was showing you. It's the links and stuff. The same links go to the same counties and stuff. You pull those NEDs in, and obviously there are different states. If you're there's judicial versus non-judicial. The best part about RCIC is if you get on to it has learning mode. So when you go into switch modes, trying to show everybody, when you go to switch modes, you can go in, and all you got to do is go to the prompt assistant, and you can put in wholesaling, but you can also go to learning mode. So when you go to learning mode, it'll teach you everything. I mean, right now I'll ask for learning mode. And so you can ask, what are you trying to learn? Wholesaling fundamentals, rehab flipping, buy and hold, burr. I mean, you can set up, can you teach me the slow flips? And I forget how to spell Scott's last name. He's got one of those weird names, but I'll just put in, can you teach me slow flips?
JELINEK.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Because I looked at his stuff. Somebody came in a couple of years ago who was around us. If you remember Matt Gray, Kevin.
Yeah.
He's in Kansas, too. He's a realtor. So here you go. It'll start teaching you this. So anybody that wants to go and learn stuff, and then anytime you're in here, you just put return to default. It'll take you right back to the default mode. But you can learn everything. And, obviously, then you can get into this whole here. It'll teach you everything. It teaches you a lot of good stuff. It can talk about the numbers and stuff. But set up your project for your slow flips, and you can actually, whatever strategies, if you got 4 or 5 different strategies, set up different projects for them. Don't put them all together, because it'll really dial in pretty quick. This will get really accurate really fast, because I know, I think they're going to be on tomorrow night. I know Eric and Michael in Georgia, Savannah, they said they're within 1% on their max allowable offer, which is really good compared to, they went and actually looked at properties and then they compared it to manual underwriting, the time it took and the accuracy. I mean, I would have taken like 5%. I would have been happy to beat 1%. As I was like, I almost fell out of my chair, like, holy crap, this is really accurate. The other thing is, like, Eric he pulled 1,000 foreclosures in like 2 days, and now he's using the skip trace. He's testing skip trace that I just developed on it. And then Bill Danagelis last week showed us, he pulled from PropWire, obviously a third party. He pulled and made an Excel with 325 properties from Northern California. Bill lives closer to Silicon Valley than San Francisco, but California charges, as Curtis told us, and I confirmed with Bill, he was having a problem because a lot of the HJs and stuff there were charging for paywalls, and it can't go through paywalls. GPT won't let you go through a paywall. So he was able to pull 325 properties. It probably gave 20, 25. Can't remember Curtis around that. I don't remember how many. He had a lot of criteria, and it got down just like you were saying earlier, like FHA, VA, what kind of loan. He parsed that down using RCIC in 90 minutes to 25 properties. So it's really, really good. So you can, go to learning mode to see if there's anything you need to fix, and I tell everybody, and I tell everybody, because people will watch this video who aren't on tonight, if anybody ever sees anything, just let me know on Messenger. Hey, something needs to be tweaked, and I can tweak it. Usually in the morning, usually between about 8 o'clock and noon my time. Yeah, Curtis. Yeah, I mean, you remember what Bill showed us? That was pretty cool. We just got to learn how to do that with the PropWire, because that's a good third-party source where they're free enough where you can literally go in and dial into. It shows you on a map. You can dial in. You can draw a box around an area. We tried that at 80127. Another feature, what I want to show people too. So that's obviously going to slow flips. We talk about like different things. You guys can see that I got a lot of skip tracing. Another thing I do is to show everybody is I kind of separate it, because you guys know that I just made that YouTube video, that YouTube visual. It's a thumbnail for the YouTube. It probably will be too big when I load it tomorrow. So a lot of times in that case, I'll go ahead and load it. And I set up in projects. I set up a visual image generator project, and you guys can see this is where I'm doing all my images now. And so I'm able to keep all my visuals together and stuff like this. And you can tell there's several of them. So I always do that. Those are some little tips, so you guys can see it. Did these ones that I posted today. and you can kind of control it. You can actually get pretty detailed. You can, you gotta of course see what you're putting into it, but you basically just copy and paste, and then go to, leave your project, go to your image generator project, and all that, and then it'll save in there. It's kind of cool. And then to show everybody kind of real quick on the GPTs. So the prompt is, everybody has it. That's a hard one, and then the operator one and campaign. So are readily available. I was having an issue with the links, getting them to stay in to explain it. Like I said, they were breaking. So with the long, so I beat Bitly. I'm still gonna use Bitly because the Bitlys have not broke. They're stronger. When I say links, let me see. Let me go to one of the GPTs and I'll show you. Actually, I'll show you guys Exchange because that's the one that I'm gonna be able to ship this weekend. I'm just, like I said, trying to get the. I'm just trying to get the links to actually load. Like we had that issue on Saturday, Amanda, when I finally got that over to you. But if you go to my GPTs, you guys create one. But let's go to these are all the different ones. There's a free one. This is the free version of Campaign OS, and obviously we got Capital OS and an Operator. Operator is really for people who are doing larger operations. It'll be like multi-era, but it's like if people are buying large multi-family complexes, a lot of commercial things like that. They're doing syndications. You're having to use accredited investors. I mean, if you look at it this way, if you're having to use a securities attorney or a syndication attorney like Jillian Sidoti or Merrill Callis or Paul Vincent, then you want to bestly use Operator. Other than that, it's just a great place to learn about bigger deals and stuff. And then Campaign is like your own AI advertising agency. Build all your campaigns. You can rotate angles is just different angles, different approaches to doing media and stuff. It'll generate all your listings, all that stuff. It's cool. It'll actually do audits and stuff on what your advertising is. This is a free version. The reason I did that is just it's like a free version of. I also have one of the a free version of and there's the Everyday AI one, Amanda. So I'm waiting on that one for a trademark, because I've got my partner Paul, one of my business partners, and Kevin can tell you, Paul's like the guy. If you want things done right, like business wise and financial wise, Paul's like he's trying to bring some investors in for this one, because this one is like the AI version of Craigslist and Carfax and all that. He has a couple of people that want to actually invest in money, so I can do sponsored ads and stuff. But they want a trademark on it, so I'm waiting for the trademark from the state of Colorado, because the state can do a trademark, and they don't have to do the big search. It takes about a week for them to do it, compared to like going out for the big worldwide trademark that could take a couple of months. So just to get a trademark on it, so that's why that one's not really dealing with anything real estate wise. What I will say this weekend is I will have capital, which is like if you are, you can go into capital one, and it's got like a structured capital readiness and deal alignment assistant for multifamily and commercial real estate operators. This system does not provide lender lists or public directories. Instead, it helps. So you can assess my capital readiness. You can stress test your deal assumptions. You can what weaknesses would lenders likely flag, and then you got what documentation disclosures should I need, and then you can expand these. Obviously, it allows you to do 4 what they call conversation starters. So I recommend that and what we're going to be doing is, like I said, everything's been at the legacy pricing. When we started this, really what became the associates group, and then now obviously the operators of the RCIC. Before we ever had this, going back into 2020, we charged $397, and then it was just $2 that we've raised it. So trying to keep a price right now through Saturday where I'll give everybody all 5 of these for $399. But after Saturday, it's going to be like $1,000. These are really powerful. I mean, when you got this kind of accuracy and it can do this much, and then by April we'll be doing evaluation on it. But just keep in mind, anybody knows the Everyday AI was home base, and it's not going to stay as the Everyday AI name. It's kind of a working name. Well, I'm getting the trademark on what it's actually going to be, but nothing in that Facebook group that I think you're in, Amanda, is, and I know Curtis is in that one that's like 99 cents a month or whatever. Nothing in there is going to be related to real estate. It's really going to be to help people navigate, like I said, Everyday AI. But it's kind of cool. But going back to the prompt assistant and how the systems work and all that, it's pretty detailed and everything. But I would recommend, like I said, set up projects. So you set up all your skip tracing projects, set up your, if you're doing slow flips and all that stuff. Like we can add to it, but like I said, anything that you want to do, you want to add to it, make your own. You want to get into your own GPT eventually. Make your own. You can make a slow flip GPT. You can make as many as you want. You just go to, you go there and you can go create a GPT. And when you create one, once the icon, I've still got to do a couple of icons. Your name, what the description is. You get 8,500 or less characters. You get 4 or 5 conversation starters. Knowledge is where I put those PDFs. You get 20 spots. And the PDFs or whatever documents, it could be Excels, that's where it guides it. What recommended model. And then, then you can put like the different things for capabilities and all that. So it's kind of, that's where you build your GPT at. So like I said, people could build one for slow flips and all that. And then going back to apps. Obviously, there's a lot of apps. You can get Airtable. I recommend it. Matter of fact, Airtable is really good, and you only really need the free version. But you can go down and look at all these apps. You can connect to Airtable, like I said. I mean, obviously, and what we're doing real estate wise, you're not going to need Uber Eats, but probably connect to it, or Spotify. But you can get down into it's got all Dropbox. I use Dropbox. I got 3,000 files in there and 250 folders for RCIC. All my hard documents, my PDFs, and all this stuff. They got all kinds of stuff in there. You can get GitHub. They got GoDaddy if you need help with websites. They got network solutions as well. All the Google stuff. So Go High Level's in here. Anybody that wants to use High Level, it's High Level right there. So you can connect it. You can connect HubSpot into it. All the QuickBooks and all that's in there. So I believe, because I have connected Zoom, I'm trying to work on it, and it's got Manus, which is another one people are talking about these days. And Monday, you guys I think you should be able to. Well, go see what you want here, but I think you have to actually sign up for it on the regular website. Don't hold me to that, but I believe that's the case because I had to be set up for Zoom. I had to put my Zoom connection in there. You got all that stuff. So PitchBook, Priceline for travel and stuff like that. Obviously, don't fly to Puerto Vallarta right now. I got a friend who's trapped there. She's supposed to be coming home tomorrow. So that's kind of where the apps are. And then you guys get into obviously, you go back to Explore GPTs, and when we talked about the public, the GPT store, and you have to be really, if you're doing anything financial or insurance or anything, you have to go through vetting. So these are the two. These are both in the GPT store. This one's the free version of the campaign, really just to help people, mostly agents and stuff, kind of promoting what we can do with the campaign, but it doesn't let you do anything. And this one's also capital readiness training. So these are both in the GPT store, but you can cover it. It goes to image generation, writing, productivity, research, programming, and a lot of these are done by ChatGPT, by OpenAI. So you guys get to buy them. You got all these, so you can get all these different ones. Image GIF, so you can get a productivity, research and analysis, programming. There's stuff education-wise. There's a legal and contracts, kind of like LegalZoom. 2000. There's AI for medical students. One I'm never gonna look at. So yeah, it's kind of cool that way. Like I said, take some time to. Everybody should take some time. Real quick, hey Matt, you still on? All right, cool. Hey Matt, what's going on? I know I keep forgetting you're on here.
Yeah, I'm still
So
here.
Matt does something pretty cool. I know you want to talk about your government contracting stuff. We still need to build a GPT unless you've already done one.
I've created a ChatGPT, but it's not refined. It only repeats what the prompt is instead of giving you what you need from the prompt, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I'll send you something that can help you with that.
But what I found is okay.
Yeah, so what you're doing, so Matt's he took a course on how to bid on federal government contracts and things like that. Almost every department, but CIA and stuff, defense departments in there and stuff. There's a lot of real estate stuff in there, but you got to kind of be prepared. Do you want to explain that? You really got to be prepared to execute the contract if you get it.
Definitely, I've been trying to figure out the most compliant route to get government contracts. So finding how what the higher businesses are doing, like architectural engineering, how they set up their bid to where it's the most efficient for the contracting officer to accept. And the FAR has all those tools. You just have to put them all together yourself, and
Yeah,
just making that compliant checklist. And
yeah, it's kind of
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, they've got a lot stricter since Iraq when like captains and stuff would write contracts on on typewriter paper.
and now they know people are using AI, so they're being
Oh
more
yeah,
diligent on who they accept.
yeah. No, I figured that was coming because there's always a way to game the government, but don't do it. Because
Right.
eventually they find out, and they're pretty brutal when they do. As the War Dogs movie goes through. So yeah, that's pretty much, guys, like a lot of stuff tonight in a nutshell. We try to usually go an hour and a half. We can go up to 3 hours. Like I said, next week on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'm gonna have the other compute. Like I said, we're gonna do deal structure and capital. We're gonna basically work on, if you want to throw in some slow flip stuff scenarios, Amanda, you can. Everybody can throw in like what they want to do and what they want to work on. It'd be kind of like how gamers get together. Ideally, we get 10, 15 people on. Everybody's working on their laptops. I'm trying to say, people have a way to be able to work and then watch, because like Wednesday night I'll do like a presentation, and then after the first hour we'll go ahead and just we'll work on scenarios and just try to get everybody trained up on different things. A lot of people have similar interests, but they haven't done anything. And I'm trying to get them to use learning mode. Because learning mode's great if you're like all of a sudden you see an opportunity and you've never done an RV park or a golf course or a multifamily or assisted living. You can go learn it in learning mode, and then you can execute it in operator mode or in resident mode. So the mode that you're most likely always going to be in on the prompt assistant is going to be the resident mode. You have to switch the other ones, TC mode. There's wholesaling mode, things like that. So obviously, if you're doing wholesaling, there's a lot more stuff that'll come up in there. In the wholesaling mode, I put a lot of stuff in there together. Skip tracing will come up in both. It'll come up in everything. There's some stuff that comes up in everything, but it's like there's so much information. Each mode has its own like PDF for instructions. So, and then of course there's I have skip tracing. I have some of the processes that have to go with every kind of deal. So there's a lot of information. I have 17 of the 20 slots filled in there for PDF knowledge and all that stuff. And sometimes it's pretty involved. It's like people ask me the architecture, and I say I don't dig into the architecture right now. I'm like I asked the I asked the GPT to explain it, and how does the architecture work for culinary RV, and it goes through the whole, like it's got this, and I'm like, okay, that's all. That's why these guys are getting paid six figures. These engineers. So keep in mind, OpenClaw is something I'm going to close with. Is that I'm learning some of it, and everybody knows it's like a big thing right now. But I'm learning it because I want to see if there's anything we need, and if I can build it, and it's something that doesn't like cost anybody or nobody has to really spend any time building their own version. If I can help you guys, I will. The second thing is if that's not going to be the case, but it's still valuable, I'll explain it to anybody that wants it. Ideally, what I'm waiting for is OpenAI, because we already are with them, obviously, on it now. If they, I assume, just I'm trying to research it every day. I'm asking questions about it. Is that if they're going to make it easier for people to deploy multi-agent like OpenClaw and all the stuff that it does in GPT, which would be awesome because then it'll be seamless, and then nobody has to go out there and learn this whole new. I know Dakota's probably spent 10, 20, 15 hours in the last week on OpenClaw. I was going to tell you that, Curtis. Yeah, Dakota's like done a deep dive into it. He's pretty interested, but he's one of those young guys that that he wants to prod in his. He's doing the VA stuff and the transaction coordinator and all that stuff. So a lot of stuff in there can help him. So that's kind of the direction we're going. Like I said, it's just really incredible what we're doing. And once we go to this, the price point, even at 1,000, if once it's out there, like all on our previous conversations, I got about 30 people in the queue, but I know who they are. If we're at 1,000, I will. Your first one, if you bring me somebody, I'll pay you $400. So it's $1 in the black on the $399, and then after that, it'll be smaller, it'll be like 200 or something. It'll kind of escalate. That'll go up as it goes up because it's people. So if we got all 5 of these different GPT stuff for real estate investors, there'll be different, for people. But everybody has it now, so just kind of be patient for a couple more days while I get exchange and I get capital done, because I got to make sure those links are, so I don't have to tweak. I'd rather tweak on helping you build like slow flips or something than having to tweak on having to get access. And so sometimes it's just like I send it over and it's like it doesn't open right away, and I want it to open like as soon as you get it. So it's really cool. And like I said, we're gonna keep building this. I mean, like I said, I build every day. I'm gonna build it for another year. I'll build for another 2. I mean, literally 5 years from now. The other thing is like people who are new, who don't know this, is like nothing that you do I can't see what you do. So that's a good thing. For you, you can put as much stuff in there. You don't have to worry about anybody stealing it. What you guys see is everything that are in the GPT that we've built. Nobody outside of it can actually see anything as well. But everybody that's in the groups are right now, Curtis and Amanda and Matt and Kevin was on. Everybody, when you guys are working collectively, it helps each other because the AI is actually getting smarter, faster, and it's getting more information. And when people like Eric and Michael and Bill and all them are working as well, we got some people doing some major count like Willie and Evan and a few other people. We got probably 56 people out of the 191 in there in the group. In the Facebook group, if everybody's working in it, most everybody's at least spending at least an hour a day in it. That is helping everybody. So you guys think about, the more people we get in, the better. And these on Wednesday nights, people are going to invite guests on. We won't give them a guest access to the GPT, but they can watch. And then Thursday nights is completely closed. We will close it, and we will only do. So if you feel like you want to work on a deal, you don't really want to, then it's closed. We also want to work on deals. We can turn the recording off. So generally I'll do an hour and then we'll turn the recording off and we can go 2 or 3 hours if you want. And also if you want to do one-on-ones, we can do one-on-ones. Those are sometimes good as well. I try to accommodate everybody. When I'm trying, and it's different being like helping tweak and build than it is being tech support. Because people said, what would happen if we had 100 people join like in a week? I'd probably be not too happy because I'd have to give tech support to a lot of people. But, and I'm trying not to do that, but I try to so that's what I'm trying to make sure these links and all that stuff works. So it's kind of cool. I'm going to take the recording off now, and I'll stop share. Just because everything we had